Hi, this is Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, the President, Founder, and Chief Listening Officer here at our network at USA Global TV and Radio. Thank you so much for your loyalty. Thank you so much to all of our guests, to our team members, to our sponsors, and to all of our elevated listeners. Here at USA Global TV and Radio, we provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. We celebrate all of our team members, all of our guests, and all of our sponsors from around the world who come and lead their lives with their hearts to help other people walk into their greatness. If you'd like to be a guest on any of our shows, please go over to our website, usaglobaltv.com, and book your session. Please contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com and subscribe to our channel. Hello, everyone, and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show today is Entrepreneur and so much more. Our topic is key strategies and tips on finding employment and some secrets about things that have happened as entrepreneurs. Welcome, Justin MIRIGLIANI, who's the star of our show. He is living it up in the city of brotherly love, where the Philadelphia Eagles will soon be playing in the Super Bowl. Welcome, Justin.
Hey, Dr. JACALYN, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
We're excited here in Philly. This is it. This is it. Two Super Bowls in 5 years, maybe?
It's hard to believe. My mother's a huge fan. She's 83. She has her shirt on. She's literally screaming at the television. What did you do? Yes. Go. It's just something like it could be a television show. Just so precious. So anyway, go Eagles. But on another note, we are here today helping entrepreneurs by providing education. We've got a fantastic guest backstage who has been with us before, Josef Stetter. I'm excited to bring him out. But tell us, Justin, what is your connection and your passion to being an entrepreneur?
Well, I've been in the training industry for now 23 years. I do corporate training. I train people in Microsoft applications, especially Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Visio, Project, Teams, all the big ones. And I also do soft skills training. Soft skills training would be things like time management, leading productive teams, conflict management, communication skills. So I do all of those, and I've been doing that again for 23 years. I incorporated in 2009. That was the first year that I started Just for You training and consulting, and it really it took a while. Like any entrepreneur, you're not successful usually right off the bat. It takes some time for you to get going and get everything up and running, and then of course trying to make as much of a profit as you possibly can. And in the last few years, it's really started to take off. It took a few years to get there, but turned it into a six-figure business, and it's exciting. And what I hope we do here on the show is talk to people about how to be an entrepreneur, what it's like to be an entrepreneur, how to know if you're an entrepreneur. One of the things I really have mentioned a lot on the show is that it's okay not to be an entrepreneur, as well as it is okay to be an entrepreneur. A lot of people look at entrepreneur as only successful people can be an entrepreneur, and if you're not an entrepreneur, all of a sudden you're not successful. That's not true. Some people just don't have that entrepreneurial spirit, so they prefer to work for an organization. I could show you millions of people who are non-entrepreneurs who are very, very successful. But for those who want to run their own business, those who want to excel at something that they can call their own, that's what this show's all about.
Well done. Thank you so much, Justin.
Sure.
I really appreciate what you share, because for someone like me, USA Global TV and Radio is 1 year in existence, although I've been in business for, I think, 18 months. Hearing about the six figures and everything that comes with hard work. I just was reading something that was posted by one of the sharks, that if you think having your own business is going to align with what it is that you're doing normally in your schedule, you can think again, because you have to live and breathe the business, especially when you first start, which I think is the first 3 years. And so for me, that's where I am. And I am literally living and breathing it. And it is such a rush. It is so invigorating. It brings me so much joy. And you're further along and you're experiencing all that and the windfall, the paycheck that you've been working so hard to get. So I'm looking up to you and following in your footsteps.
Well, it's again, as you said, it's great, and the feeling is so wonderful. But like you just said, you have to put the time in, right? That's the important thing. You can't just want to start a business. Anybody can LLC in about an hour, but if you really want to be successful, you do have to live the business.
For sure.
And you're doing it.
Thank you. Because this is what I do. This is what I do day and night, except work out and take care of my mother. And it's just a joy.
And I saw that last workout. You're looking good. You got the guns going and everything. I like it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really exciting because I might not be as lean as some people, but I'm super strong. And that's what I'm really proud of, that I'm super strong going into 60.
Well, you should be.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'd love to bring out our guest. Josef has so much knowledge and wisdom. He actually came to us for the anniversary show. It was nice to have him there. And he was talking about some of the things that people have misconceptions about when it comes to getting a job, or maybe their expectations aren't in alignment with what's expected. We're going to be talking about that as well. If you are out there looking for a job, what are some of the things that you need to know? He's a corporate culturist and resume whisperer. We're also going to be talking about his experience as a business owner. Let's welcome him to the show. Josef Stetter, come on out. Hello.
Hello, and thank you for having me again. It's an honor and a pleasure. And Justin, great story. Go Eagles as well. I agree with Justin in terms of Dr. JACALYN. You definitely look great, and some of your workout pics there.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Joseph.
Joseph, what stands out right away, because you said this before, was you're wearing the purple shirt. And that's one of the things that you mentioned about how to stand out. So tell us how you stand out in your role, corporate culturist and resume whisperer, which I love these titles, by the way.
They're cool.
So as a corporate culturist, I basically help organizations in 5 different pillars. So a lot of times, for example, executives look at an Excel spreadsheet and they don't understand why they have turnover, or they don't understand why, sadly, 80 to 90% of people in North America hate their job. So I come in and I customize surveys to really hone in on where the problem's occurring. Is it a particular department? Is it a particular leadership style? Then for the past 20 years, I've been in recruiting, and more so old school headhunting. I don't use any job boards. I actually go into your competitors and bring you the cream of the crop that are gainfully employed, but if you offer them the right opportunity, they'll come and do it for you. And with that, I've got licenses with the top 4 personality assessments in North America. So I can give leadership insights on how somebody thinks, how they act, and how they behave, both inside and outside of the work. So now leadership not only has the resume, has my notes from the interview, but also has the scoring from the personality assessments that tells them a more complete picture of what to expect if they hire this person. The next pillar, and it ties right in, is corporate culture. It's become a huge buzzword. And unfortunately, most executives don't understand that culture is about engaging your employees. You know, I use the example where if a company does a Halloween costume party, but none of the executives dress up, it sends a message of, yeah, go ahead, we don't care. And that's how people feel, like leadership doesn't care. Even if leadership has meetings the whole day, wear a Dollar Tree mask for 10, 15 minutes, go shake hands, take a few pictures, acknowledge people that took the effort to dress up for Halloween. It's one of my favorite holidays. And then take off your mask and go to your meetings. But that 10 minutes will make all the difference in your corporate culture. So I help organizations create and plan their corporate culture. And again, this is also data-driven through the personnel assessments and through various other tools that I have. The next big part is corporate social responsibility. Again, a huge buzzword in the industry. However, a lot of organizations will brag that they build houses for habit of humanity, but when I talk to their employees, they're actually very angry and bitter about it. Why? Because they're being forced to lose their weekend and come on a Saturday, Sunday to build a house for habit of humanity. So I need to tell leadership, you want to be socially responsible, pay Thursday, Friday for your staff to build a house for habit of humanity. And if they're enjoying the experience, let them choose to come back on the weekend. And I've partnered with 2 organizations that have created a gamification model where I can give them data on what their employees care about and how to create social responsibility that engages their staff. And last but not least is outplacement. So when a company unfortunately needs to downsize, I can take everybody that's being downsized, help them rewrite their resume, help them rebrand, and get back into the workforce faster and easier, which is where the Resume Whisperer comes from, because I've personally helped over 11,000 people land their dream job now. And I've done it for over 25 people in as little as 2 days.
Wow.
That's pretty amazing. 11,000 people. That's a lot of people.
That's amazing. It's incredible. So, Joseph, when you are actually speaking with employers, like what really resonated with me was about that Habitat for Humanity. Justin and I are very involved with the Crohn's Colitis Foundation because we elect to be. We elect to be because we're patients. But when an organization says that you must do this, I don't know. I think that wouldn't rub me the right way.
Well, it's also a combination where like organizations want to get their tax receipt, they want to get their PR. So leadership chooses, like, let's say, feed the homeless or pay for cancer as part of social responsibility. But when they choose it, a lot of employees, especially kind of millennials, Gen Zs, feel disengaged because they're like, I didn't do any of this. You sponsored a hockey team, but that's not me contributing. So Habitat for Humanity is an example where, again, the idea of being socially responsible is there. The execution is bad. So one of the things that, let's say, I say to companies, if you're going to donate, let's say, $1 million anyhow, why don't you take 10% of that, so $100,000, and each month recognize your employees of the month or people that gave great contributions, and then donate a small amount, let's say $1,000, $2,000 in their name to a charity of their choice. This way, you actually get buy-in on social responsibility, and the employees actually have an incentive to perform well because they get to contribute to a cause that they want. And unfortunately, this is something that's not on a leadership Excel spreadsheet, and it's often a conversation that usually shocks leadership the most because they're not thinking about it from how do I get my employees excited about contributing their time, their energy, possibly money to it. They're thinking about, this is good PR, this is good for business, let's do it. And so it's changing the conversation to kind of understand that today, many potential employees will look you up on websites like Glassdoor, will do research on if employees enjoy working there, what is kind of the environment that they're getting themselves into before even coming for an interview. So the more you can understand how to appreciate, acknowledge, and accept your employees, the better of a company you are. And those 3 A's, appreciate, acknowledge, and accept, is why we seek love so desperately, because love is the epitome of all 3 of them.
Wow.
Good points.
Yeah.
Joseph, I teach 2 courses. One is called Empowerment, and the other one is called Leading Teams for Success. And what we're seeing here, I know in corporate America, and I'm sure it's throughout the world, is that we take the person who's great at their job. So Mary Smith is great at her job. She turns out 100 widgets a day, and she's aces. So we promote her and make her a manager, make her a leader. But we never, ever, ever teach her what it is to be a leader. We just say, you're good at your job, so you got to lead everybody else. Do you see that as well?
Of course. So you see that a lot, I'd say. Like one of the best, I'll call it, retailers in organizations for promotion is Costco. 70% of the back office at Costco started pushing carts and being cashiers. When Costco promotes you, they give you a month and a half to train your replacement so that you're not just doing the surface level training, you're actually showing them some of the more complex issues that you might have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And because Costco also understands the importance of their people, there is cashiers at Costco that work full-time that make $100,000 a year plus benefits. Okay. Wow. Because Costco has calculated that to lose one good cashier costs them on average $140,000 a month. So they measure their cashiers on how fast they are, how accurate they are, and their ability to do quick chit chat, but keep the line moving. If you score well in one or all three of those categories, Costco will give you a $5 raise just to make sure you don't leave and give you the incentive to go, we acknowledge you, we appreciate you, and we accept your genius. And you're absolutely right, Justin, in that there is a level where there's a lot of people being promoted, but they're kind of thrown with the sharks and go figure it out. Right. And yes, there's a massive gap in organizations understanding that you have to groom your people. And I think this is where there's also a big difference between a leader and a manager, because a manager is worried about their job. A leader wants to lose their job.
Interesting. And, I want to just comment on what you shared about Mary Smith. Many of the Mary Smiths out there might really like what they're doing and they're really good at it, but maybe they want some more responsibility or more money. They don't necessarily want to leave what they're doing to do something else that they don't have that knowledge and skill set in. So the fact that you mentioned that Costco gives that amount of time, I think is great. I don't know how much time is needed to switch roles, but I think that's another thing, that you sit down with the person and say, we gave you this time. How do you feel? Do you feel that you're ready, or do you need some more hands-on training, or maybe shadow someone for a while? What are your thoughts, guys?
If I can jump into the
sure.
Justin, why don't you go first? Sorry.
I was just going to say, one of the people that I really look up to is Simon Sinek. And Joseph, you know Simon?
Of course.
Or at least have heard of him? Okay.
Yeah.
And one of the lines that he says I think is the most important is, being a leader is not being in charge. It's taking care of the people in your charge. It's all about service. When it comes down to it, it's always about service. It's not about delegation. It's not about making the rules. It's not about being heavy-handed. It's about service. How can I make you better in your job? Joseph, I just wanted to
100% agree with you, Justin. And yes, I love Simon Sinek as well. But here's the thing is, most organizations, even though they have a 1-year plan, a 5-year plan, they don't actually engage their staff to ask what their employees want, because not everybody has a desire, let's say, to become the C-level executive. Some people just want a pat on the back. Some people want to learn new things. And so changing the conversation, saying, okay, when you're done this project, here's what you'll get to learn in the next project, can be all you need to engage the employees, to keep them excited and keep them going, right? So I think that this whole, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Do you want to be a manager? Do you want to be a leader? Not everybody's done that. Like I have a friend who works for a grocery store that he started working when he was in high school. And he was smart enough to pay into the union even though he was part-time. Well, he's been there for nearly 20 years. He makes $170,000 to put tomatoes on the shelf. And he gets a premium because he works from midnight to 8 a.m. And the grocery store said, you've been here for 20 years. You make more than the store managers currently. Why don't you become a manager? And he looked at him and goes, why? I don't want to deal with the headache of scheduling everybody and what happened with the inventory orders and stuff. I come in, I put on my headphones, I grab the carts that I need to do, and I put them on the shelf, and I go home and I make really good money. And he started a side business of selling kind of Blu-rays and DVDs because he got licenses from Sony and MGM and so forth to sell them. So he runs a small little store kind of on weekends and a flea market and makes another $150,000 to $200,000 from that. So he's flat out said, I have no interest in becoming a manager. And they've approached him at least 10 times. He's like, no, I'm happy where I'm at. I do what I do and I get paid well for it.
That's important. I think that's a lesson that companies need to learn, is that sometimes people are just happy in the job that they're in. I mean, if you ever watch the TV show King of Queens, his wife, Carrie, would always say to Doug, oh, you're just a truck driver. Why don't you try to become management? Always trying to push him. He said, I just want to be a truck driver. And it's okay to be a truck driver. If that's what you want to do, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't want somebody in the position where they're in management, but they resent it, right? I mean, that would be a problem in itself.
Look, it depends on what's going on in your life. You know, like you have kids, you want to spend time with your kids. So being in management where you have to put in those extra 10, 20, 30 hours because you're responsible is not the ideal situation for everybody. You know, not everybody wants to be a partner in a law firm. Yes, on the one hand, that's the big dream because you're making the big money. But I know plenty of people that prefer to work on 9 to 5 as a lawyer, go home and have no worries. So they make less money, but they're happy. And again, I think that we have lost this importance of do what is your purpose. If you're really strong, like in accounting, and you want to do accounting, great. Like as an entrepreneur, I understand I need to know my numbers and I need to know what's going on in my business, but I have no desire to sit in front of an Excel spreadsheet and do accounting or otherwise use casework issue. I hire good accountants that tell me this is what you need to know, this is what's happening, this is where taxes need to be paid, and give me the summary so that I can focus my energy and my time in what is my genius or what is my skills and ability.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Joseph, I really would love to focus now on helping the people who are out there who want to get a job. Maybe they're in corporate and they want to leave and find something else, whether it's their own business or they want to go work for another company, but they just don't know what to do. What are the first steps to take?
Number one, I think, and Justin kind of mentioned this earlier, is that, you know, people have this mindset that entrepreneur is all or nothing, right? Like, oh my God, it's there. You can start with what's called a side hustle. And I use this example. If you love music and whether you sing or you play an instrument, if you get a gig once a month for $100, you'll probably enjoy that $100 more than your entire salary of what you're doing. So first of all, focus on, is this job that you're doing satisfying yourself? Is it something that you're, as Steve Jobs said, you're waking up excited to do? If there's a few days in a row that you're not, maybe it's time to make a change. Now, understand that the biggest mistake that most people do is that they don't value who they are and what do they bring to the table or what their knowledge is, right? If I use, again, the word accountant, for example, every accountant on earth knows how to do a balance sheet and an income statement and a cash flow statement, because if you don't, how are you working as an accountant? Okay. But start small. Start doing people's taxes and personal. If you have 10, 20, 30 clients, maybe some of them have businesses and you can charge them to do their business taxes on their side. But you don't need to quit your job before you become an entrepreneur. You can do both and transition when the time is right for you. But the most important thing when trying to transition or trying to level up is to make sure that people understand who you are and what are the skills you bring. You know, my marketing team just said to me, there are 3 pillars for social media marketing. The first is to create awareness. The second is to educate. And then once you educate, there's a call to action. So if you've been in the corporate world for 20 years under the umbrella of the corporation, you haven't created awareness that you as an individual have something to offer. So start creating content for that. Then your content should also educate people. What are steps that you can take? And then once you've educated them, you give them the opportunity to connect with you, to do business with you. And it's no different in transitioning between jobs or transitioning to being an entrepreneur. That's how I started.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Joseph, do you know why? I've mentioned this on the show many times before. I approach companies and I can sell the computer training pretty easily. I could get
Right.
people to say, yeah, we need Excel classes. Yes, we need project classes. Yes, we need PowerPoint classes. But the empowerment classes, the leading productive teams classes, a much, much harder sell. Why do you think that is?
Because it's not on their Excel spreadsheet as a number of what they need to quantify. You have to understand that we are now in a world where mental well-being and mental health has become a massive issue. And more people are opening up. I'm dealing with this. I'm dealing with this. So organizations that have been around for a while that have done it this way for 50, 100 years are having a hard time going, what do you mean mental health? What do you mean well-being? And why do we need to focus on that? Because it's part of the old school mentality of everybody should be thankful that they have a job. Okay. But again, it's not that. The other thing, and Justin, this goes hand in hand where even for me, let's say as a recruiter / corporate culturist, when I speak to some clients, they're like, yeah, but you charge me $10,000. Now I have an infographic ready and I say, do you realize that to have, let's say, one IT position open or one kind of position open in your organization costs you between $100,000 and $180,000 a month? When you calculate the overtime, when you calculate people calling in sick because they're burnt out, when you calculate the time that your leadership has to take time off from their regular work to interview candidates, to do multiple interviews, the time it takes for once they're hired to train them. When you add all these little pieces, you're paying $100,000 to $180,000 a month. So would you rather lose $100,000 to $180,000 a month, or would you rather pay me $10,000 to get you somebody, let's say, in 2 weeks? And if I look at a company where I really hurt them is I go, I've looked on your LinkedIn, you've had 5 positions open for, let's say, 6 months. That means you've lost $1 million in business. So do you want to continue losing $1 million in business, if not more? Or would you rather pay me to bring you the cream of the crop? And when you create that kind of value, Justin, I think that empowerment is a conversation where executives will speak in numbers. So when you talk to them about how their employees will be more productive because they are empowered, they'll be more engaged because they're empowered, they'll produce better results because they're empowered, that is when you'll see significant differences. So, and again, empowerment can be something as simple as feeding them. Empowerment can be the 3 A's: acknowledging them, accepting them, and appreciating their work. That is actually the number one reason why most people hate their job, is they're never appreciated for the effort that they do. And so when you start having that conversation and you start talking about, okay, what would an increase of productivity of 20% look like for your company? How much money would that look as profits for the organization? How big would your bonus be if your team performed 20% better? You'll be surprised how quickly they say yes to you, Justin.
They have to see it in numbers. That's the key, right?
It's always about the numbers because, in a business perspective, again, the word entrepreneur, people are like, oh my God, I'm going to run a Fortune 100 company. And it scares the living daylights out of them. Like, Justin, if you're an entrepreneur and you're making a good 6 figures a year and you're happy with that and you have your work-life balance and you can enjoy the Phillies games and, the Eagles games and so forth, then that's all it is. You don't have to grow bigger and have 1,000 people working for you if that's not your vision, right? And I think that's where most people are kind of so afraid to take that first step, because in their head, when they think entrepreneur, they think, oh my God, global operations, 100,000 people working for me. I've got to make so many decisions. And it's, look, just do it for yourself. Do it for your own well-being. Do it because you want to take more vacations. And, that extra $10,000 a month is a vacation for you and your family on a regular, for example. right? Those are things that I think that's the biggest conversation for people to understand. You can have a great job and you can be an entrepreneur. And when your entrepreneurship grows to the level where it covers your salary and then some, that's when you make the transition. Like, if I can share kind of how I became an entrepreneur, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Right. So I was in recruiting, and in my first year for the company, I generated over $750,000, like $750,000 a recruiter. My supervisor, who'd been there for 10 years, generated $140,000. For Christmas, the owner of the company gave me cheese and crackers. And when I looked at her, I'm like, what the hell is this? Pardon my language. She looked at me and went, well, the cheese is from a grocery chain called Pusateri's, which is very high-end frou-frou, like you massage the cow for 3 months or whatever. And I looked at her, I'm like, do I look like I'm 65 years old that I need cheese from a frou-frou grocery store? The sad part was the crackers were from Dollar Tree, kind of thing. And I was like, you know what? I generated $750,000 for you. The closest to me generated a fifth of what I generated. If that's all you think of my work, most of the business I brought in is new business, new relationships that I built. And so I quit. And when I quit, my mom was like, what are you doing? You're not going to have a paycheck every 2 weeks. And I spent 3 months branding, looking at specifically, even the office where I wanted to be, every little detail. And my mom was freaking out because she's very risk averse. And when I opened my business in my first month, I did $143,000, which was more than she earned for the entire year.
Wow.
And when I earned $143,000, she was like, okay, maybe you need marketing. Maybe you need to think about your business a little bit. Okay. And kind of, I started with a bang, and everything I touched turned to gold. Now, this is where I also learned a very expensive life lesson, because my former supervisor from the company that I left reached out to me and said, you know what? I'm sick and tired of working here. I work like a horse, or like a dog, sorry, and I'm never appreciated, kind of thing. So can we become partners? And I was like, yeah, you had my back. Love your personality. Sure. Now, when I was about to give her the paperwork to sign as a partnership, she shared with me that she was living under her dead sister's social insurance number for the past 11 years.
Oh, wow.
And because her brother was working for the city of Toronto in a leadership capacity, and she'd been working for 11 years in recruiting where some very, very influential and powerful individuals vouched for her, she was allowed to stay. And she told me that she should get all her papers within 3-4 months. I was like, great, 3-4 months, we can backdate certain receipts. So we started working, and I paid her out between $160,000 and $200,000 in cash. And in about late 2010, the economy, at least for recruiting, crashed after the big crash in the economy there. And my 3 biggest clients at the time were Deloitte & Touche, Tata Consulting Services, and Apotex Pharmaceuticals. I went from having 60 to 90 orders a month to having 0 overnight. And all 3 of them downsized about 1,500 people in one shot and put a 3-year freeze on hiring. Now, a lot of my recruiting at the time was in accounting. So the big 5 accounting firms, not to mention some of the other ones, downsized approximately 11,000 accountants. And so all my clients said, why do we need to pay a fee? There's 11,000 accountants that are begging for a job. Now, when I opened my business, first opened it, I was young, I was dumb. I was excited about the idea that I'm an entrepreneur. So I lived the lifestyle of the rich and famous. I made $143,000. I went on a $20,000 vacation for 5 weeks. Bought furniture, bought car, like stuff that wasn't thinking about investment, thinking of the future, because I didn't think anything is going to happen. When the market crashed and I went from having 60 to 90 orders a month to 0, my business partner and I by that time had a major falling out. And basically, when we had the falling out, unbeknownst to me, we had orders that we closed that we were still waiting for the checks on. She called all the clients and told them to redirect the checks to her. So when I called my clients a month later and said, "Where are my checks?" they looked at me and said, "You've cashed them." And I went, "What do you mean I cashed them?" And then they showed me that it was redirected by the partner and so forth. And she basically stole $270,000 from me. And then right after this, if that wasn't enough, because like I said, I wasn't saving, I wasn't thinking ahead, Revenue Canada woke up and was like, "Hey, you've taken out $250,000 in cash. Unless you can provide us with paperwork, you now owe us corporate tax, personal tax, CPP, EI, and several others." And I got nailed with $94,000 in taxes, which you can't really declare bankruptcy when you owe the government money, because they can garnish up to 90% of your wages. So I kind of withdrew all my savings, all this, and basically gave it and lived off credit cards. And it derailed me for a good 5-6 years in terms of my business. Now, here's the funny thing is, when I first opened my business, I hired a cheap accountant, not a smart accountant. And then I was telling a friend of mine who has his US CPA, his Canadian CPA, he's got an MBA, he's got an engineering degree, he did his in-depth level tax courses. I was telling him this story, and he goes, "Why didn't you fill this form?" And I went, "What form?" And he pulled out the form, goes, "Yeah, you could have said that you have somebody who's not a citizen working with you, and you wouldn't have had to pay these taxes." I just looked at him and went, "Well, that was a lesson." Right? And again, as the owner of the business, I chose to work with this person. I chose to take the risk on it. I didn't do my follow-up and my paperwork due diligence. So I look at it as a life lesson. It's a very expensive life lesson, but one that now my businesses have more contracts. And when something doesn't make sense to me, there's lawyers involved, there's accountants involved, there's tax planners involved, because I want to make sure that I'm making the right decisions in the business. And so, I've made over $1 million in my business. I lost over $1 million technically, because my business went to zero. And when my business went to zero, I lost a lot of my clients and then had to rebuild it. And there's a desire where right now I have 2 beautiful children. I have a 2-year, 8-month-old, and I have a 5-month-old. And knowing that I can give them opportunities to have choices in life, to have experiences in life, to follow their passion and their dreams is what drives me to be even more successful as an entrepreneur than when I first started this wonderful adventure called entrepreneurship.
Josef, I so appreciate what you shared today, because that takes a lot to open up and tell people, hey, you know what, it's not always rosy and it's not always just money flowing in. I'm wondering, as we come towards the end of the show, at some point when you were going through this, did you say, okay, I'm going to go get a job?
I did. I became a high school teacher, because in Canada, high school teachers can actually make $100,000 a year plus better benefits in government. And for the first, let's say from 2010 to 2016, my students didn't know this, but I was living on crackers and macaroni and cheese, because I didn't have enough money to pay, because I had $360,000 in debts that I had to pay off. But again, it's part of the transition where even now I'm still a teacher, but I'm automating certain things and I'm partnering up with people that have achieved a lot more than me, so that I learn from their lessons. So if this person's made $10 million, I haven't. They kind of coach me and mentor me and say, don't do this, so that I can get my business to the level that I want it faster and better. And I surround myself with mentors. I have 5 different mentors that coach me and mentor me and guide me and connect me with people that open opportunities for me, and sometimes make introduction, because let's say they're investing in the company themselves. And when they invest in the company and the company says, we need to hire, they go, you need to speak to Josef. because that's a condition of my investment with you. And so it's going in the right direction again. It's a process, but I welcome the journey.
I think you are probably an outstanding teacher.
Thank you.
Because just what we've learned here today. Justin, what are your thoughts?
It's just amazing to have taken such a hit and to be able to come back and say, you know what, I'm going to do it all over again. And then not only do it again, but become successful again. It's just an amazing story, Joseph.
Correct. And again, this is where, in the world of recruiting, you can have, like, I place, let's say, a C-level executive that's making a $250,000 salary. My fee on it is 20%.
Right.
So it's not something that closes every day, but even if it takes 5-6 months to do it, there's a $50,000 paycheck for me. So a $50,000 paycheck pays a lot of bills and reassures me that the business is right. And the beautiful thing, let's say, in the world of recruiting, in the world of career coaching, here are the real statistics about the job market for people that need a job. Prior to the pandemic, there were 45 million people that were unemployed. There were 45 million people that were severely underemployed, meaning have a university or college degree, but work at McDonald's. And then there was close to 30 million people going through some sort of education or retraining. That's a target market of 130 million people. As much as I'd love to help all 130 million people, and I'm not going to complain if I do, I'm realistic that I won't. Because some people will not choose me because of the skin color. Some people will not choose me because I'm in Toronto and I might not fully understand the US market, even though I understand it quite well. Some people might not like me because I'm male and they prefer to work with a female. At the end of the day, there's more than enough for everybody. There is, in Canada, 500,000 companies. In the US, probably quintuple that, 2.5 million companies. I can't, even if I had 10,000 people working for me, it is physically impossible for me to service everybody. I have my clients, you have yours. We can both make money and we can both do well in servicing people, because my attitude is always service first. The money will come afterwards.
We see business exactly the same way. What Joseph is saying right there, it's about the service. The money will come if you're good at what you do. If you're just chasing the paycheck, if you're just chasing the money and you don't care what you're giving the people, eventually you're gonna fail.
Right. It's about relationship building. It's about building that rapport where even though I might be more expensive, you'll come back to me. Like, I use these two examples, which are very common. For women, their hairdresser. Their hairdresser might be more expensive than most hairdressers in the neighborhood. But for most women, as long as the hairdresser doesn't screw up your hair, they're your hairdresser for life. But if a hairdresser screws up your hair once, usually it's a sin that's unforgivable. For most men, it's a mechanic that they like. So even if the mechanic is more expensive, knowing that this mechanic is honest and is not going to try and kind of find ways to kind of squeeze more money out of you, you'll go. Like, I have a body shop guy that I've been going to for 20 years because when I came to him, when I had my junker, when I first became a teacher, he looked at me and goes, your car is pretty much dead. It's going to cost you $6,000 to repair it. Not worth the money, because you're going to have to spend more money on it soon thereafter. Just look at whether or not you can get a newer car or better car. And to have that level of honesty that he's like, don't waste your money, don't repair it. I recommend people to him all the time, because there's an element of trust. There's an element of honesty in who he is and how he approaches his business that I feel very comfortable. And I've sent lots of people to him that have said, you know what, he was great. His prices were reasonable. The service was better than expected. And yes, I'm coming back to him if I ever need it. So it's a simple example, but you know what? It's how you interact with people, how you show up, and how you kind of say, this is who I am. And, you know, it's not like, even when I speak to clients, it's never about I'm the best or I've done it. Nobody cares. I kind of say, here's how I will service you to the way that you want to be serviced. Because I start the conversations by asking them questions. What do you like about the employment agencies you use? What don't you like? How do you like to be communicated? How often do you want to be communicated? Da, da, da. And I get insider information from them that tells me exactly how they want to do business with me. And then it makes my life very easy because I just follow the formula that they said, this is what I like. And so because I do that, I tend to get a lot of repeat business because people work with people they like.
All valid points. And Joseph,
Fantastic
one thing
points.
I just like to add is, and I think we discussed this on another show, I'm constantly, probably you guys too, I'm constantly getting people soliciting things for, but it's all about them. The whole thing is about them. We do this, this, this. I just delete. I don't care what you do. What are you bringing to me? How can you help me?
Right. It's more of like, listen, we do it like, yeah, we do SEO. That's a good common one. We can do your website. So like I probably get I'd say 50 to 100 of those daily on LinkedIn and a few other kind of thing. And it's like, okay, again, or people are like, we should have a conversation to get to know each other. What do you do? I'm like, clearly you have not read anything on my profile that says this is the services I offer. If your first interaction with me is, what do you do? So clearly I'm not very quick to jump. And again, even in the world of marketing, I've been burnt now. I hired 3 different companies that all had Google AdWords and SEO and Facebook, promised me the moon. $30,000 later, 0 results from it, 0 conversions. And I went, okay, either the material that I'm sending is not right, or somewhere in the conversation there's a disconnect with the marketing. And I just hired a new marketing firm because they didn't just say, yeah, we know all this, we all know this. They broke things down for me, and they broke an explanation of, this will take a month, this will take 3 months, this is the process we're going to be used, this is how we need to, let's say, change some of the messaging that you have, and this is what you can expect within this time frame. And I did my due diligence to make sure that everything is legit. And I'm very happy that I made that decision, because they haven't even finished preparing the new stuff they're preparing, and I'm already excited about what's coming.
Joseph, we have to have you back because we're out of time, but you share so much. And then I think, oh, well, what about this? And what about that? But unfortunately, we don't have any more time today. So I really want to thank you for coming here and just sharing so much of your expertise and your knowledge with our audience, and also with Justin and with myself, because I know I'm definitely taking away some key points that you mentioned. For people who want to work with you, they want to hire you, they want to pick your brain, they don't want to waste your time. We don't want any time wasters, but they want to exchange value. How can they reach out to you, and who would you like to contact you?
So fastest, I'm very active on my LinkedIn profile. Josef Stetter, Joseph spelled with an F, and Stetter, think of the word stutter, but with an E. And on Instagram, again, Joseph_Stetter. I'm very quick to respond to people. At the end of the day, even if it's just to pick my brain for an hour, I love being of service. And even if it's not monetary, I know, as Justin said, that all of these good days, I'm earning my points and my score with God, the creator, whatever you believe in, that bigger and better things are coming because I'm passing my test of service and gratitude to have the opportunity to service. And again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share some of my 2 cents and experiences as it comes to being a corporate culturist and a resume whisperer, because again, I think there's a lot of value that it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to start. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to fail, even though we're, as a society, terrified of this idea of, oh my God, what if I fail? You'll have a life lesson. You'll have a story to tell. You'll have an experience, and that can change somebody else's life.
Hear, hear. I agree. Definitely. Thank you, Joseph.
Yes,
Justin,
Joseph.
How can people get in touch with you? We've got a show coming up in just about 10 minutes, so you'll be able to give some more information. But who would you like to reach out to you, and how can they contact you?
Well, anybody who's looking to gain skills in any of the computer programs, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, project management, just reach out to me. I'd love to train you on that. I do one-on-one training. I do group training. I do corporate training. And my website is www.justforyou, all spelled out, JUSTFORYOUTC.com. I also do consulting. I help people build spreadsheets or databases and things like that. So anybody who's in need of training or consulting, that's what Just For You does.
Thank you, Justin. And we'll be back momentarily with our next show, which is Take Steps and Kick IBD. I'm really looking forward to this. We haven't had a show since May, but we're starting up again because the Take Steps Walk is taking place in Philadelphia at Lincoln Financial Field on June the 25th, and Justin and I will both be there reporting live from the field. So there won't be a game being played at the field, but it will be the walk. So
could be a trophy there.
Yeah, that's you're right. People will want to get into that locker room and have their picture taken again.
That's right. That's right.
I love it.
Joseph, I just want to say thank you so much for doing the show, and I'm looking forward to getting to talk to you a little bit later.
Would love that, Justin, and thank you for having me again, Dr. JACALYN, and Justin, thank you for letting me share some of my 2 cents on your show.
Thank you. We appreciate it. And I'm so happy you two are going to collaborate and network. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Bye, everyone. We'll be right back in about 8 minutes.